Okay. This is something. This is just kind of like nothing really new, but very much some helpful advice to you to make your life a little easier here. We did double digits probably what, Monday or last week, sometime relatively not very far ago. We did double digit division, and we talked about this and we said, okay, 22 doesn't go into 9, so you don't want anything above the 9. And then to figure out how many times 22 goes into 92 to get you a good estimate, what do? Maggie Nervous, you think about, you look at the front digits and say how many times 2 goes into 9, in which case this was 4, right? So 2 times 4 is 8, so you multiply by that, you got your 88, you subtract it and you get your 44, and then same thing, 22 goes into 44 2 times and you end up with your answer there. Well, today, kind of the same stuff, but just a little bit different. Here is a problem. 48 into 829. 48 into 829. And here is just some words of advice. You're kind of following the same pattern there. 48 doesn't go into 82. Okay, and then you look at 48 doesn't go into 8, but it does go into 82. And if you look at the front digits with the 4 and the 8, you're going to say, well, okay, it's 2 times it's going to go into there. But that's where you got to stop yourself. Because if you look at 48, 48 is much closer to 50 than it is to 40. So when you see one of these numbers here that's closer to the next higher digit, it's better. You're going to get a more accurate estimate if you think about this as being a 5. And how many times will 5 go into 8? Only once. Because if I do my 48 times 2, 48 times 2 is 96, and it's going to be too big, so I'm going to be out of the ballpark, and I'm going to have to do some other multiplication. So when you see a number that you're dividing into it is closer to a higher number, to a higher first digit here, rounds up to something, you want to think about that number. How many times will 5 go into 8? Once. You do your 48. You do your subtracting, 7, 34, and the same thing is true here. I don't want to think about how many times 4 goes into 34, okay, because that's going to give me 8 or something like that. I want to think about how many times 5 goes into 34, because it's a lot more close to 50 than it is 48, which would be what? What's that?
6.
So we should try 48 times 6. I'm going to guess it's going to be 8 times 4, 24, what is that, 28? I'm going to think we're probably a little short on that. You do 288 minus that's going to be a little, so I'm going to go with 7. Okay, and the reason why 7 might be a good answer, because if this was 50, what is 7 times 50, old mathematicians? 350, and 349 is awful close to 350, and since I rounded this up, the number I get is going to be higher than the number up there, so 7 times that is what, 56, 5, 28, 336, I hope, and that's my remainder. And please write them as remainders. I know somebody yesterday wrote them as fractions. Unless they ask you for a fraction form, write them as remainders. You kind of see the point the book's getting at there? Let me do another one for you here. What about 29 into 1210? Okay, if you're doing this, your first thought is this, well, 29 is very close to 30. So when I do my guessing to what the division things are going to be, you want to think about this as being a 3, not a 2, because 2 will be way too small, or way too big. 2 will be way too big for what you do there. So again, nothing goes into 1, nothing goes into 12. How many times will 29 probably go into 121 there? Question of the day. Somebody care to venture a guess there? Sammy Bollinger, I haven't heard from you today.
My time was 29.
121. Did you miss out? Did you miss the whole point of what we talked about here?
No.
Okay, how many times not will 2 go into 12, and how many times, because this is close to 30, how many times will the 3 go into 12? What'd you say?
4.
4. So let's try 4. That's what I would guess. 36, 8, 9, 10, 11. Not a bad deal there. So there's your 4, 116. Let's do some subtracting here. Okay, how many times will 29 go into 50? Because again, if you thought of this as just being a 2 into 5, you'd say it goes twice, but twice is going to be too high. If you think about it as being a 3 into 5, it's only going to go Ryan Connor just one time, and that's really, just make sure in the end when you get your remainder, make sure it's less than what you're dividing in there. Am I out here all alone on this? I don't hear anybody I don't hear anybody oohing or eyeing about how much easier their life is going to be. What's that? How about this one? You do this one for me. 19 into 792. And you don't have to do this if you don't want to. If you're confused on it, it's just going to save you a boatload of time if you do. If you do look at it that way, you're going to find yourself getting your homework done much quicker with these types of problems. Let me know when you get an answer there. And they do put lines on your homework paper for a reason. Otherwise, you might just go buy a blank piece of paper and have those in your own paper and call it a day and save yourself some cash. Who's got an answer? Got some answers out there? Mr. Noah Clausing, what'd you come up with?
41 and 13.
Anybody jumping on board and agreeing with the 41 remainder 13 bandwagon? Looks like it might be reasonable. And again, here's what you think about. 19's awful close to 20, so when you think about your guesses or your estimations, you want to think about this as being a 2, not a 1. There should be nothing above the 7. How many times will 19 go into 79? Again, you think about this as being a 2 because it's close to 20, and you'd say, okay, I'm going to go with 3. So 19 times 3 is 57. If I do 57, it's going to be too small, so that actually ends up being 19 times 4. Which is 76, right? Do my subtraction, do my arrow down. How many times will 19 go into 32? Think about it being 20, you add just once. You get 19, 3, 7, 13. Hopefully that helps you out a little bit. There's no easy way to do all this stuff. But